Okay, basic concepts. You can read through this for yourself, but as you know, I just want to get the highlighter quickly. As you know, you have to be able to do a debtors collection schedule. I personally like this a lot. You also have to do a creditors payment schedule. You need to be able to calculate markup percentages, because by doing that, you can go from sales to cost of sales, which is purchases, and of course then split it into cash and credit. So you need to know that. Then also with interest on loan, we can give you the percentage interest and the amount of interest, then you work out the loan. And any of those three amounts can be left out. So these little calculations, if you like your maths and you like to solve X, this is a nice topic for you. It's not so much accounting and bookkeeping, but obviously planning for the future. They will also ask you what is the purpose of a cash budget or a projected income statement. And remember, it's just a plan for the future. Okay, so let's just look at these exam tips. I know you can read through it yourself, but remember, in grade 11, you did the full budget. Here, missing figures probably will be what you will do. You have to have your arithmetic or math skills practiced, please. Then don't question an amount given. Don't think too much about it. They will give you an amount, and with that, you will work out the next month or the previous month, okay? Don't manipulate figures. I already said the next point. But if they don't ask the debtors collection or creditors payment, you might have to do just a rough calculation to get another answer. And please, with rough calculations, it's still neat, but it's not to be done over a long time. You have to do it quickly. You all should understand that when we want cash purchases or payments to creditors, purchases is cost of sales. Therefore, if you give me the sales and the profit markup, I get the cost of sales, and that is my purchases. Okay, we're using brackets here, not minuses. So if there's a shortage, it's a minus. Okay, you end the 1 month with a balance, and that will be obviously, as you know yourself, with your own finances, the opening balance for the next month. Okay. Careful here, because we can ask a sole trader or a company, if it is a budget for a company, the extra items will be something like issuing of new shares, we get money, we receive money, and buyback of shares, or payout of dividends, or directors' fees, or income tax, all of that, and audit fees will be payments. Okay, this is a typical bonus 2-mark or 4-mark question where they say, name items not in the cash budget, because it's easy to understand cash, money in, money out. Depreciation, bad debts, discount allowed, discount received, these are not cash items. On the other hand, if I ask you what is not in a projected income statement, it is anything that is not an income or an expense. And that would then be anything like purchase of assets or purchase of stock, which is an asset, received from debtors, that's an asset, paying creditors, that's a liability, drawings is equity, it's not an expense, same with capital, shares is also equity but not an income. So these two things, make sure you understand that 100%. We always think a projected income statement might not be asked because we might be doing the income statement anyway, let's say in paper 1. But the thing is, we won't ask you to do the whole projected income statement. You must make deductions from it. They always ask compare actual with budgeted figures, so that you can see where there is a problem where we have over or underspent, okay? And it's all about controlling your cash or your income and expenses. Please notice that the question I'm going to do now is from the November 2019 paper. So that's from last year's paper. It's a very good one to practice. And we first, as usual, when we start a question, identify the topic. then the time it will take us, and you stick to the time, please, but you must finish. Who we are working for, did you notice it's a company? That's important. And that your year end is October. It's important to know that. And then, if Tembi is the only shareholder, it's obviously a private company, not a public company. We don't do the books of a private company, but it's just information here for budgeting. Okay, here's my info. I'm going to start with the first question, 2.1, where they ask us to indicate in, let me rather show this, to indicate in these blocks when we buy a printer, is it cash budget or projected income statement? Now, as you know, let me just get my pen, a printer is an asset. When I have a printer, there will be depreciation, which is an expense. When I have insurance, it is an expense, but I will also pay it. When I have a loan is a liability, and a liability cannot be in a projected income statement. It's just a few quick thoughts on what you're seeing here. So that is money received. When we repay the loan again, it's a liability going up and down. That's not income or expense. But interest on loan, which is an expense, is also paid. So careful. There's slight differences here. If we look at the slide, excuse me, I know that a printer that's bought up to there might not be used, but if it's bought for cash, I will have to show it. So in other words, the 40800 will be paid for in November. So there, in November, printer bought, I must write 40800. It cannot be, I'm just writing this quickly, this is cash, and this is income and expenses only because it's a projected income statement on the right. So a printer bought for cash, that's it. But now because I have a printer, I'm going to have, and please notice on the slide, depreciation, careful. With budgeting, you have to always check, are they giving me a yearly or a monthly figure? And what am I doing? Obviously, we're working monthly. But I did not buy the printer on the 1st of November. So if you only bought it at the end of November, when will your depreciation start? Obviously, only in December. So I go here and I say that depreciation is not money. Just like a printer is not an expense, it's an asset. Now, because I bought it at the end of the month, I will only start showing depreciation of 680 in December and in January. I hope you understand that. So that's on that topic. The next bullet shows me that on the 1st of January, so that's the third month of my budgeting period, 48,000 will be paid. But it's a 12-month insurance contract. So we'll get back to that. When we want to know about money, the cash budget is really easy because it's the 1st of January and it's a payment. So let's go here. Insurance, January the 1st, paying the whole amount. So I'm paying 48,000 Rand. But it is for 12 months. So now here again, I'm going to use the bottom. If this is me writing exam, I'm going to show that I'm writing insurance. You don't have to write the word out. All teachers will know what your abbreviation means. You'll show them that you know we are budgeting or forecasting month by month. And 48,000 divided by 12 is 4,000. And then we just say, well, when does this start? Because I start on the 1st of January paying it, I have to start showing the expense of 4,000 in January, because there and there I did not have this specific policy. Okay, let's go back to the slide. there's a loan of 100,000 that I will receive. That's definitely cash budget money in. When? 31 December. I'll do the installments and I'll do the interest later, but first we start with the easiest part, 100,000 received. Let me look at the date again. 31 December. So this is where I will get my 100,000 rand. A loan is a liability. It is not an income or expense. Even loan repayment, it's not an income or an expense. It's money, cash, out. So I must just now go calculate quickly. It says here, this will be repaid in equal installments over 20 months. So we know that 100,000 divided by 20 is 5,000. And it will start on the 31st of January 2020, and it's monthly. But even though it's an easy calculation, let's use the bottom of our page. We just show here that the loan of 100,000 will be repaid in 20 equal monthly installments, and the first one is 31 January. So that means I don't pay yet, I pay there. I start with 5,000 there. And again, if you write the word down, it's good enough for the teacher to find it. Otherwise, you can always indicate it with different things so that they can find it or number it. Okay, so I have so far shown all my calculations. We will now do the interest. But with interest, you have to now make sure you understand if it is just an expense or an expense and a payment. Okay. As you know, interest, we will have to give you the percentage. You have to know if in this case, obviously it's per annum. And we pay it monthly. Now, pay monthly means payment, but it's also an expense. So it's the same, it's both sides. Because it is not capitalized, not added to the loan, it must come out of our check account. And then we just calculate. Obviously, third calculation, 100,000 rand times 12% paid monthly. Remember, they could have said pay the interest every 3 months, but it's monthly, equals 1,000 rand. And then you must just understand the money out of my check account as a payment in January is 1,000, and the expense, interest expense at the bottom of any income statement, even if it's projected, is 1,000 rand. Okay. So that's a comparison of the two. And I remind you, this was last year's final exam. There's the answer again. Why it's important to look at memos is to know all these yellow things that they have in the final exam memos shows you, or the teacher marking it, that if a person, for example, has a foreign item here, it's -2. So don't just put amounts in anywhere. You must be sure. If you put something extra or in the wrong column, we have to subtract marks. We are now going to answer 2 questions for 3 and for 4 marks. The information I have there on the next page. I'll show you now. But the question is that he does not, well, the information is, he does not grant discount. And we must now, you know how we normally in the textbook give you the percentages and how debtors pay? We must now figure that out ourselves. What percentage of debtors settle their accounts in the 2nd month? And what then is the bad debts at the end of the 3rd month? Okay. So obviously that would mean for me that debtors start paying 1 month later, the rest pay 2 months later, and 3rd month is bad debts. Now you have 2 options here. August won't work because you're not quite sure here what happened in September, but you can clearly see here, what happened in October. you can clearly see that September's sales, if you do this question, you'll realize I said something wrong earlier, so just forget what I said earlier about the 1 month, 2 month. Let's see. They want to know which percentage pay in the second month. Now, if this is September, then October, November is 2 months later. So you can use this. You could have used October. Now, if October is the sale month, November, December is also 2 months later. So you've got two options. I'm going to take the September amount. So look what I'm writing on my answer page. I'm writing, I like it when people just write the month that they're working with. Otherwise, you yourself get confused. What were you doing there? You're looking at September. September's sales is 90,000. And therefore, the people paying 2 months later in November, which is 67,500, what percentage would that be? Let's see. It is 67,500 times 100 over 90,000. It is 75%. You might see that if you use the other month, the October one, then the December amount of 75,000 is very clear to see that it actually is 75%. Okay, but I chose this month. It also works out. Only the people who are really fast can sort of double check themselves by doing another calculation. I would advise that you're just very sure about how this works and you just do one and you move on. Now they want to know, calculate the percentage of debtors written off in the third month following the credit sales. If we now know that this is 75%, then we need to know what this is. Okay, let's do that. Calculate the 19,800 that we get 3 months later as a percentage of that same credit sales. Because if this is the last money we get, we'll know what we don't get. So 19,800 times 100 divided by 90,000 equals 22%. That's not the answer yet. They want the bad debts. Therefore, if I get 75% 2 months later and 22% 3 months later, and that's it, this is 97%. Therefore, the answer would be 3% bad debts. Okay, that's that question. I'm just showing you how they worked it out. It's nice to see on a memo how the memo of the department looks, so that you say, okay, I picked this one or I picked that one. My answer is also correct. And then the same here, you see how they say or, and they say one part correct, work with Mark, so make sure you understand these memos. Right, let's have a look at 2.3 now. It says, look at information B, and the office workers are unhappy. Now, this is a standard question. When the office workers are unhappy, it's because somebody else gets a bigger increase, or they want more than they can get, and you will explain what Tembi, the owner, should say to them. 2 points. Okay, let's go to the answer page. The moment you are asked to provide 2 points, you will bullet and clearly show. Now, the first thing I would do, and it's also on the screen, I would work out that they received a 1840 increase on their original salary. Now, I hope you agree with me, you cannot be unhappy with 20%, because you have to, obviously, when it's about salaries, you have to understand there's the inflation rate, let's say plus minus 4 to 6%. I think the inflation rate is quite low at the moment, but I apologize if I'm wrong. but we usually compare with plus minus 4 to 6%. So it's so much higher than the inflation rate. That would be one reason, one thing she can tell them. If you look at the figures, I'll show you now, it wasn't a planned for increase, so she didn't even plan for it, and they got the increase. Thirdly, she, the director, I think took a pay cut, which also she can tell them. Then she did a lot of training, and that cost her money. And if you're a worker, you must understand good working environment, training that you are sent on and the owner pays for it, is all things that add to your value for a possible promotion. So there are many things in this case that she can tell them. Okay, you'll see on the screen, I showed you how I worked out the increase. If we just go back to the, oh sorry, it's the next screen. There we go. If we just go here and I go with my highlighter, this is what I was looking at. We did not project an increase, we gave them a 20% increase. We did staff training, we did plan for it, but we actually in the end spent 40,000 Rand. So that is a benefit for them. Like I said, the director, who normally takes 50,000, that's Tembi, she only took 40,000. And therefore, if we look at the memorandum quickly, I have not typed it, but I just want to show you, even though it's small, I'll just read quickly. You can say that the increase in wages was granted even though the sales target wasn't granted. You can say it's more than inflation. That's the one I would use. I would always use the inflation one, okay? And then you can say that the director took a pay cut, a drop in pay, and then the training. So I think this was a nice 6-mark question. Okay. Let's have a look at a few of the other questions. I just need to go back here. We did not have 2.3.2 on here. I'm going to just quickly, I see our time is up, so I'm just going to quickly discuss a few things that I'm thinking of. You must remember, if we talk about a salary increase of 8%, then if we give you the new month, it's 108%. And if we want to know what they earned the previous month, you must go back to 100%. For example, I'll just write it down, almost done with the recording. Let's say a person earns 8,000 Rand and we give him an 8% increase. You would do this, or any which way you want. You can say 1,08, you can add 8%. But the point is, this person's salary goes from 8,000 to 8640. But what if I just gave you the 8640? After the increase, how do you go backwards? You would say, well, this is after the increase, so this is 108%. I want before the increase. And if we do that, we'll get before the time. So with budgeting, you must be able to work towards the increase or backwards, any which way you want. And I'm going to end the lesson here by just summarizing quickly. The topic is not that easy. It's not answered well in general, which means please practice. Make sure you do at least 4 exam papers, and start with this one, which is the November 2019 one. Make sure you understand that you can answer theory questions or basic concepts, that you can do the calculations, that you read carefully. Do they give you monthly, yearly, etc.? That you can understand both the projected income statement and the cash budget, and that you can understand that a budget is only numbers that you project for the future. If something happens like COVID, you would have to redo your budget. So that's why we like to give you projected figures and actual figures. And certain things you can cut down on, like stationery, telephone cost, water, electricity. Then other things that you must not save on would be things like advertising. They love giving you advertising because advertising leads to bigger sales. So you can't cut on advertising. You also cannot cut on things like maintenance and insurance, because if you don't do that, you're going to have problems in the future. So make sure you get a variety of questions that you can do properly. And good luck.